Cheryl Johnson, and this is Basic Baking 101. Today we're going to show you how to take a bunch of little cream puffs and put them together in a little tower called a croquembouche. So you start with your fresh, unsalted butter, and you melt that in some water on the stove, make it hot, and when the butter is all melted, then you add your dry ingredients in one fell swoop, and you stir it as quickly as you can so that it will collect from the sides of the pan and form a ball of dough. So in just a few moments we'll see it starting to collect together, pull away from the sides of the pan, and form itself into a ball. See? At this point you want to add your eggs one at a time. You can either use a wooden spoon or a whip. I like to use a handheld electric mixer. It saves your elbows a little bit of work. So the eggs go into the dough one at a time as quickly as you can. Get them incorporated. Pâté à choux or cream puff batter. So it should eventually look like a thick paste, and now it's ready to go into the pastry bag. So you want to shake the batter down after you've put it in there with a spoon. It's like feeding it like a baby, and then you squeeze it down and fold the tops or twist. You can either twist it, you're trying to keep the batter from squeezing out the top. Alright, and then when you squeeze with an even pressure in a circular motion while you're raising the pastry bag slightly, you start at the very bottom and then you kind of work your way back, and then once they're on the pan, it's a very, very lightly greased pan. You want to dip your fingers in some water and smooth down the tops. Make the tops round. Then you can also make different shapes if you like at this point. The eclairs, you can make swan shape. You can use a round tip to make the head and neck of the swan, then a star tip for the wings. And then you can make individual desserts for your guests. Or you can use the swans to make a spectacular cream puff cake, like this. Then you bake the cream puffs at a very high temperature in a convection oven, hopefully, until they're set. You start out at a high temperature and then you lower it somewhat so that they can cook in the middle, and what happens is they're hollow inside, so they'll take a cream filling. It's time to fill them. This custard is a Creme Patissiere recipe. Basic French custard. So at this point your custard needs to be pretty chilled. Hopefully it's been in the refrigerator for a while. You can lighten it up by folding in a little bit of whipped cream if you want, or you could just fill it with stabilized whipped cream. So make sure your custard is thoroughly chilled. And you can make it the day ahead if you like. Today we have a cappuccino flavored custard that we made to go in there. You can flavor your custard with many different things. So at this point you want to feed the custard, or the lightened custard, into the pastry bag with a coupler and a tip so that it doesn't squirt your tip out while you're trying to fill it, and you insert it in a natural crevice. And you just squeeze it until you can barely see a little cream, and that means your cream puff is full, and then it's time to take the tip out. So they're hollow inside, the cream's going in. You just squeeze it very lightly. If you squeeze too hard, it's going to shoot all over the place. Use a light touch. It takes a little finesse to figure out where that point is, where the cream puff is full but yet not too full or not too empty. Yeah, nice coffee flavored cream. So then you want to clean off any messes you may have made on the outside of them. And at this point we make a caramel syrup that's going to do two jobs. It's going to work to stick the cream puffs together in the tower and keep them in place, and it's also going to create the spun sugar that's going to go around the outside of the tower. Stick together like glue. You can also drizzle it onto a flat non-stick surface into shapes, and then you can use it to top the croquembouche. You don't want a lot, just enough to keep the cream puff in place, because you want the people to be able to take the cream puff off easily and not make a big show of wrestling with your delicate cream puff tower. So that's how they stick on, and you can make it in different shapes, more fat, more tall, more round. You can even do it in the shape of maybe a snowman for Christmas or a Christmas tree. And at this point, you take that same syrup and you get some on your fork and you rub your forks together. It's like magic. You say abracadabra, rub the forks together, and you get this finely spun gossamer. Don't forget, you have to do it pretty close to serving time, or the sugar could melt. Rainy days are not the best for this fabulous dessert. The moisture in the air could cause the caramelized sugar to break down and destroy the presentation you worked so hard to produce. This dessert takes skill and patience, but the effort is well worth it. It's one of the most incredible and delicious pastries you can make. The filaments of spun sugar shine like gold. You can make it as big or small as you like, depending on how many guests you expect. Or you can fill these little cream puffs and put them on top of a cake. I made little swans out of the cream puff batter, which are very easy to do, not as hard as it looks. And the cream puffs are crispy on the outside, kind of like a creme brulee with that caramelized sugar. And they have that creamy feeling that kind of bursts into your mouth when you bite into one of them. And the croquembouche shape is very conducive to having a party, and people just come off and pick one and eat it. They're bite-sized, they're fun, and impressive. Thank you for sharing my kitchen today. I'm Cheryl Johnson of Cheryl's Catering, Cakes, and Video Production. Basic Baking 101 is brought to you by Cheryl's Catering, Cakes, and Video Production. For cooking questions or questions about catering, cakes, or video production, email CherylCakeForYou@yahoo.com.